Welcome to the Ask NPSMA presentation series. Today's topic is building community, leadership, and professional growth for students and faculty through professional engagement. I will be moderating today. My name is Megan Dovick. I am currently the 2025 NPSMA president, as well as I'm the director of our professional science master programs at the University of Utah. So a little bit about our organization first. So the National Professional STEM Masters Association is the national organization that supports, promotes, and advances professional science master programs by providing resources, recognition, and a network dedicated to workforce-aligned STEM education. And how we came about this organization, or kind of the history of NPSMA, was first introduced in the 1990s, or the term professional science masters was introduced in the late 1990s as a direct response from industry leaders saying we need scientists who are not only technically skilled, but are also ready to work in teams and manage projects, communicate clearly, and make data-informed business decisions. And it was from those conversations that NPSMA was formed and helped to formalize the PSM model that embodies a STEM plus curricula. And we continue to be the guiding organization for this framework, helping to meet STEM workforce needs. Within the PSM model, there are 5 key elements that all PSM should have, including STEM coursework, integrated professional competencies, an industry advisory board, development of transferable workplace skills, and an applied learning opportunity or applied learning opportunities. So when people asking why NPSMA membership matters, and it's beyond having a PSM program. So being designed like a PSM is a strong foundation, but being part of the NPSMA community adds national recognition, credibility, visibility, and resources that amplify your program's impact. Some of those membership benefits include best practices, whether it's from how to finance and structure your program, curricula, marketing, administration structure, course development and teaching. We just launched a Canvas platform that helps to share for our NPSMA members articles, syllabus, presentations, on all of the topics, specifically around transferable skills, those soft, durable, and transferable skills. Professional evaluation and improvement. We offer through affiliation and reaffiliation a review of your program, evaluations of your program, and provide feedback from our own members here who have extensive experience in directing and running PSM programs. There is a cost savings to being a member, including coming to our annual conference and also having multiple PSMs within a single institution. And then finally, and very on topic for today, membership benefits also include professional development and networking as part of NPSMA through webinars like today, leadership roles, our ever-changing annual conference, national advisory boards, a national network, and as well PSM consultations with members that you see today. Speaking of our conference, our NPSMA annual conference, here's our plug. You will see Derek will put in some information in the chat for you. It is already scheduled November 5th through the 8th in Raleigh, North Carolina this year. Registration is now open. We highly encourage you to register now and reserve your room during our early booking phase. If you have any questions about that, please reach directly out to any of the board members or Derek Payne directly as our manager for NPSMA. And of course, I'm already going to start to plug. Save the date for next year because we are hosting it in my hometown of Salt Lake City, Utah. And that is slated for November 4th through the 8th. of 2026, so another year away, but I thought I'd take this opportunity to share my hometown love. All right. And then finally, another opportunity for being part of the NPSMA community. Is to become professionally engaged with our community. Here's my call to action. Any NPSMA member can join a committee. We have conference, marketing, affiliation, member benefits, bylaws, nomination, awards, and we are currently soliciting for open board of director roles that will be opening up in January of 2026. We take
Well,
self-nominations, and we also can reach out to any of us, and we'd be happy to help um, create a nomination package for you. And then finally, of course, connect with us. You will find all of our Ask NPSMA sessions on our YouTube channel, as well as we are mostly active in our social media space on LinkedIn. This is where you'll see updates about our conference, about these types of events, insights that we can share as a community. So please connect with us in one of those ways, or like I said, reach directly out to us. Okay. So today's panel is all about professional engagement through leadership and service and networking, and how it can open doors to skill building, career advancement, and collaboration. And today we are joined with panelists who bring these perspectives from industry, academia, and within our own NPSMA community. Today we are joined with Beth Murphy. Beth brings more than 25 years of experience in drug discovery and development from her career at Merck Research. She earned her PhD in neuroscience from Rutgers in 2019 and transitioned into higher education as graduate director of the Life Sciences Masters in Business and Science programs at Rutgers. And Beth recently transitioned and joined Temple University as their director of development for graduate and post-baccalaureate programs. And she's been an active member in our NPSMA community since 2000. Next on our panel, we have Marcel Blies. Marcel is a professor of teaching in mathematical sciences at Worcester Polytech Institute, where he coordinated the PSM program in financial and industrial mathematics from 2008 to 2024, and served as associate department head from 2017 to 2022. He co-leads the WPI FinTech Collaborative, advises industry-sponsored student projects, and has guided many PSM students throughout their career. Marcel has been a member of the NPSMA community since 2008 and currently serves on the board and is the VP for Benefits and chair of the Workforce Advisory Council. We also are joined with Marianne Berzins. Marianne is Chief of Staff and Assistant Dean in the Graduate School of the University of Utah. Go Utes! She also, where she advances strategic initiatives, oversees operations, and supports graduate student engagement and professional development. She previously served as Assistant Dean in the College of Mines and Earth Sciences and has a long career in organizational and leadership development, mentoring, and coaching across the university community. Marianne holds an MBA from the University of Utah, and before joining higher ed, she worked in management and HR roles across multiple sectors in England. And finally, today we have Terry Woodburn. Terry is Program Director and Associate Teaching Professor for the Environmental Assessment PSM program at the University of Kansas. She brings academic expertise in physical geography and geomorphology, along with industry expertise at Kansas Geological Survey and Missouri Department of Natural Resources. At KU Edwards campus, Terry manages 2 graduate certificate programs, oversees the environmental studies undergraduate completion track, and teaches courses in soil and water resource sciences. She also advises PSM capstone projects and was honored with the Faculty Teaching Excellence Award in 2023. Terry is an active member of NPSMA and is the current president-elect for 2026. So, let me stop sharing there. So thank you to all of our panelists today. And let me see, where are my one notes? Sorry, here we go. Okay. So to kick us off, um, let's take this a broad view as we get into our topic around professional engagement. Um, Professional engagement can take many forms, like we mentioned, leadership and service and networking, and beyond the classroom or workplace. These experiences can be transformational. So I would like to start with Beth. From your perspective, how does engaging in a professional organization add value? And then we can also open it up then to the rest of the panelists.
So, I found that joining professional organizations really provides a excellent networking opportunity. You have like-minded people with similar backgrounds or similar interests. And networking, you always need it. You always have to develop it for when you need it. And I have found that with my network, it's helped uh, guide me through my different career transitions that I've had through my professional life, and gives me the professional support that is really essential to get, career satisfaction. It's about the people and connecting with people that you wouldn't normally get just from being at your job every day. So I can't say more about just the people are so important in meeting them. But
Thank you. Yeah. Any other panelists like to chime in? Go ahead, Marian.
I think in addition to the people, the thing that I think engaging with professional organizations gives you is a slightly different view of the technical knowledge that you actually learn in your day job and in the classroom. And I think as well as the networking, I think for me, working with fellow professionals at different levels really challenges my own thinking about different subjects. And it's an opportunity to really engage with people who are possibly not in your discipline specific topic, but through associated topics, they just give you different things to think about, which you don't always get in a classroom or you don't always get in your day job. Because if we're being candid, one of the things that we have to do is get through the to-do list in the day job. There are not always too many opportunities to think about the breadth of what we're doing. We sometimes have to check things. And in the classroom, I'm focused on mastering my material in the class I'm doing, getting the assignments done, doing what I have to do to get through the semester. So for me, professional associations give us these transitional spaces which help us to think differently or affirm what it is that we're actually learning in these different spaces.
I love that kind of the lifelong learner approach. There's always space to grow and to learn different perspectives or views. Absolutely. Terry, I see your mic is off.
Just a quick note that both of those perspectives is exactly what I would have promoted, but I wanted to take it a step further. We're thinking about it in the context of networking for us or having our students network for themselves. But really, when it comes to faculty, program directors, we are networking for the student as well. So we can gain additional insight and additional connections that we can then help link students up with.
Mm-hmm.
can I add something? Again,
Yeah.
it's really sparked a thought in my mind, is that at least, especially from my experience on the industry side, which is what we are trying to prepare these students for with the PSM type approach, is that an interdisciplinary approach is really critical for success in the workplace. You don't work in isolation, you work on teams, and especially in a science focused for-profit organization, like a pharmaceutical company, which is where I have most of my experience, you work with different people with different skills. I don't only work with biologists. I would work with chemists. I would work with finance. I would work with regulatory. I would work with marketing. I would work with all different types of people with different skills. And so, providing that interdisciplinary approach not only is good for our own careers, but it's also a good skill to pass on to our students too. And
May I add one other thing?
Mhm.
I hear the comments about networking for ourselves and networking for students. I think there's a piece in this about our own individual willingness to share what we actually learn. And if we truly want this to be a kind of experiential growing together in the knowledge, I think we go into this understanding and accepting, not always recognizing it from the outset, that is, how do we really create the opportunities where people can share this networking experience when they leave a professional association event or whatever it is? And, we've all had great experiences where people's generosity has benefited us well. And we've possibly also had experiences where people don't always share what they're experiencing and learning very readily, maybe until I'm actually pushed by somebody to volunteer that information. So I think there's an element of us bringing into this space our own willingness to engage in professional associations and opportunities like this in a way that is truly about enlarging the learning experience.
I love that. Any other thoughts, Marcel, before I move on?
Yeah, a couple of things. So I agree with everything that's been said so far. But I think also one extra thing from the networking perspective and working with people. I joined NPSMA. I was 3 years out of graduate school, and I'm not really getting audiences with deans and top level administrators. And so all of a sudden, you go to the NPSMA and you're in working groups with people from all different aspects of the universities that they're coming from. And so I actually found that to be really valuable because it felt like it brought down walls for me because I don't know, as a 30-year-old just out of a postdoc position, I think it would, at that time, it probably was kind of intimidating to be jumping into conversation with deans at my own institution. In this type of interdisciplinary group, mixing people from different places, that was incredibly helpful for me. And then also running a program, I found it so valuable to get different perspectives from people in different disciplines and also from my own discipline at different places, because all our schools work so differently, and you can get kind of pigeonholed a little bit in the way things are done at your institution, and getting ideas and just bouncing ideas off of people from different places was incredibly valuable for me. And I would always come home from NPSMA meetings with a whole set of new ideas that I would put into play at my own program.
I love that. And yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of the opportunity for growth, for professional network, for I loved your last comment there, Marcel, about breaking down the walls, right? Like this, and it's kind of this like artificial wall too. It's and I love that that's how engagement in professional organizations can kind of like give you that extra confidence of, yeah, you can go and talk to anyone and that sort of thing. Let's bring it more concrete. So part of this is, we kind of came at this panel from twofold. One, for encouraging us as career people and professionals to continue to engage, but also understanding that we are the directors, we are the faculty and the staff and the admin that run these graduate programs. And part of that is to help them, encourage them to get these professional networks and engagement opportunities. So concretely, what are things that we probably already know, but let's share them out loud. What types of skills can students gain most directly from volunteering and engaging in organizations? And then how do these transfer to career advancements? I feel like Maybe this is an obvious question for a lot of people in this room, but I would love just kind of like, let's just put it out there. And then maybe Terry, you can kick off this one.
So we already hit one of the big ones, networking skills. But if you think about all the different ways we can volunteer with different organizations, different types of professional engagement, you're going to get a lot of skills that you might not necessarily think about, but most of them, we're thinking about them. Those networking skills, gaining the contacts for potential future work collaborations. I have students in the environmental sector that work for different companies, but they're reaching out to their peers at different companies to say, okay, I've got this problem. Are you dealing with something similar? What does that look like for you? But then we get hands-on skills that we don't have time to provide in our excellent courses in the PSM. We don't have time for everything, so some of those hands-on skills they'll obtain through volunteer work. Maybe it's time organization skills. And it's not always trying to fit in this extra piece into your time management. It's also about the choices you make getting to this point of engaging with whichever sector that you're most interested in. But there's also experience interacting with people outside of Zoom and outside of the structured classroom. That is invaluable. Potentially, depending on the role, possibly mentoring of others could be built into these experiences, collaboration through different projects. So you're probably going to be building collaboration skills as well. Potential to run into really odd situations in volunteer work or in a sector or an experience that you're not used to will actually trigger your use of critical thinking and problem-solving skills in ways that you might not have imagined. Other than that, getting external viewpoints, like Marianne mentioned previously, other opinions beyond your own and your professors is always great. You want to have that diversity of considerations. Getting to ask questions about different jobs. What do they look like in the everyday? Just running into somebody in one of these networking sessions, you can get great information and start determining your students can, do I want to be in that position sometime? And maybe even you in your role, as you move up in your career, you might figure out, maybe I don't want to head there and I'm good in this sector or this direction.
Mhm. Other panelists' thoughts? Yeah, Marianne.
In addition to what Terry's just said, and it reminds me a little bit about what Marcel said earlier, I think working with professional organizations gives you real experience of working with people as opposed to reporting to people. And I think because most professional organizations are really composed of volunteers, and you really learn very quickly what motivates people to engage and what motivates people not to engage. And so for me, that's a durable thing that you take wherever you go, because what motivates you is not going to translate into motivating other people. And I think for me, I call this the reality of organizational life, because most of this is being done around what people do during what they might call their work day or their school day. And not everybody is going to do things in equal measure. And this translates into what you do in the day job when you graduate. And you learn things about the fact that not everybody is going to stand over you saying, have you done? Why haven't you done? You kind of learn this organization reality in a way that you don't always have time to do in the classroom. As scientists and as practitioners, you really don't have the capacity in the curriculum to do all of these things. People learn some of this through team projects and those types of things. I think this just gives you a different facet of organization life, as well as helping you to understand what is it that I really love to do versus what do I have to do, but I'm not wild about. But it really does help me to get something done. And for me, that's an organizational snapshot. And the other piece that I think for professional associations, in the work that we do, whether it's a faculty member, a staff member, or whether it's a student thinking about what they do after they complete a program, you really have to know something about how organizations work. And professional associations gives you insights into how organizations get stuff done. And I think that is something that I might call a durable skill, which is an added value.
I love that. That's actually, I hadn't really thought of it in that perspective of, yeah, we can teach it in the classroom, we can try to, but the reality of getting things done is kind of a hard lesson to learn in a classroom unless they have this experience. And the other comment that has kind of stuck with me too, almost a sigh of relief, is this idea that encouraging our students to actually get engaged is a lift off of us, right? Especially in these programs like ours that are trying to embed more professional, more workplace skills on top of, a full load of STEM curricula, that we can give them the tools and the runway to do it, and then someone else can really take the lift of showing them through experience all these different professional skills that they can get by just engaging. So a benefit for getting our students to definitely get engaged is that we don't have to embed it to a certain level of measurement, right? Of grading, of assignment, of around these more durable skills set. So I love all this conversation of there. Other concrete thoughts about encouraging or getting our students in professional orgs? Yeah,
In
Marcel.
addition, this is making me think of something that I see in an organization, another one organization I'm involved in. So I advise a lot of STEM focused students, and a lot of them are interested in finance, fintech, quant finance. And, this other organization I'm in, we organize all kinds of things, boot camps, career fairs. And students, the career fairs are great. The students can go to the career fairs, show their resume to people from representatives from different companies, have conversations. That goes a long way. But if a student gets involved and volunteers, which we ask for, and becomes part of the group with the kinds of things that Marianne and Terry have been talking about, a lot of the people who are active in this organization are in industry. They're looking for help. They're looking to hire people. And if you get involved in that way as a student, you have already differentiated yourself in a major way from the rest of the herd. And that networking also can give rise to job opportunities, ones that somebody won't necessarily have thought of. There's kind of an unknown unknowns in terms of opportunities for students if they get involved in organizations in that way.
I love that.
Along that line with Marcel is it instills confidence in students. They are a part of something they're working towards with this team of all these various individuals. So yeah, confidence is a great boost.
That's true. And I also think of it like I have a lot of students who want those types of finance, fintechs, quant finance type jobs. And I always tell them, when you go into the job market, you have to know more than what you've just learned from the classroom. So you can learn all kinds of quant finance models, but if you're talking to people in industry, and they say, well, what do you think is this, what's going on with the yield curve? What do you think? And if you have no idea what they're talking about, you look like someone who just likes to study and learn technical stuff, but isn't really right for the industry. So you get out there into professional organizations, talk to, work with, network with professionals, and you won't look like that bookworm who just learns the academics and doesn't really have the interest of getting into the industry. You really look like a good fit for that type of industry.
Okay, so we're asking our students, we're encouraging our students. We know all the benefits that they can get out of it, but let's be honest, our students are coming in with a lot of like lived experiences and potential barriers. Like there's I truly believe if people had all the time in the world, yeah, we would be engaged in a lot of different ways, but we don't. And we're also dealing with a lot of unknowns. And so I would love to kind of like take this direction now and kind of just say, or that what's preventing students from getting involved? And I'm going to lean to Marianne as like this is right in your wheelhouse of helping students really foster that in your background with HR and all of this. So I would love for you to kick us off. Like what can we do, or what are we missing from
Okay,
students?
so I thought about this from my own graduate experience, and I had never had graduate experience in the US. So I had to relearn all of this from a different cultural and professional perspective. And so the ways that I did this somewhere else were not the ways that worked here at all. And one of the things that I truly did not really anticipate is the impact that networking really has in a Northern US culture. And that took me a long time to actually get my head around. And so if I'm being really candid, I mean, I think there are some real obstacles, one of which is time constraints, particularly for students who are doing professional masters who are also working full time. There just does not seem to be enough hours in the day. And depending on the role that you have, I think some of our students are doing hugely demanding jobs. When I did my first professional masters, I did a full-time job, and I had to fit in school around it, and that often meant making really tough decisions about what was going to go on the back burner versus trying to keep 4 things simmering all at the same time. So time constraints are real. All the other commitments that we have in our life, whether it's school, work, or personal, we have to think about how we're going to integrate those things. The third one is probably not knowing what was available, really not knowing. So, in your professional disciplines, we all have professional associations, but truly not understanding how to connect with any of these things. And what was a real change for me was I went to this conference, which is part of one of my own professional associations, and I went to it for 3 consecutive years. And I was sitting there in this session thinking, there are different ways we could organize this conference, and we could do different things, and I have no idea how to influence this at all. And so I remember going to ask this person to how do I get involved, and they said, oh, give me your details and I'll connect with you. A whole year went by and I heard nothing. And so for a long time, I really had a mindset of, oh, it doesn't really matter what I want to do. This is not going to really appear on anybody's radar. And I'm not saying that any of the associations that you work with are of that kind, but there may be people in this audience who don't actually know how to connect with you, really. And I wonder how you do that at the professional meeting. How do you really talk to people who are interested in engaging? The other thing sometimes I think is a barrier is really not understanding what the volunteer opportunities are. And we talk about expectations in work, and and I do some work with students about, do we really understand what expectations are? And a plea that I often make with organizations that I work with is, if we're asking for volunteers, can we be really specific about what this volunteering opportunity actually is? And what does that commitment look like? Because I over-volunteer for things, and then I feel bad when I cannot commit to doing some of these things. And so what do? I have 2 choices. Either I quietly disengage, or I push something else on the back burner, really do what I need for my volunteer assignment, and hope that I'm going to catch up with something else. And on occasions, I think I volunteered for things that I'm not really interested in, which for me is a huge motivator, simply because somebody has told me that I should volunteer for it. And I've recognized that not always having interest does not equate to being a great volunteer in terms of working with institutions. And quite candidly, sometimes I'm just too lazy, because I've just got too many other things. And I describe it as laziness. And other people have said to me, Marianne, that's not laziness. It's you saying you just don't have the capacity. In my mind, though, I think I can't be bothered, and I equate that with laziness, but it really is about my capacity. And sometimes I don't really know my capacity to do things until I volunteer for something else, and then I realize I'm on over capacity. So I have a couple of things that I really like to think about. Am I interested enough in the work of this organization to want to engage with it in the first place? Do I understand the volunteer opportunity and what's really required? If all of the discussions around the assignment that I want to do are during the day and I can't fit it in because I've got everything else, what are the alternative ways that I can actually connect with it? I volunteered for a conference once to actually help be part of the welcoming committee, but I forgot to ask about whether I got conference registration for it. When was I expected to be there, and how did I actually pay to get there? And so you have to kind of think about all these practical things, which we don't always make explicit at the time. And I think it's perfectly okay if we don't know any of that to ask questions of the organization about what does this look like? What do you want me to do? Tell me something about the logistics. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about.
Beth, go ahead. Those were great.
So I want to follow up on what Mary Ann said. I mean, in this day and age, to travel to a conference is an expense.
Mhm.
And expense can be such a barrier, especially for students and especially just for people in general. And no matter where you are, whichever kind of organization that you work in, travel is always the first thing that gets cut when there's a budget pinch. So just having the financial means to get to a conference, to do those professional development skills and making those professional connections can be a challenge. So it's, how do you do this in an alternative way? Well, since the pandemic, we've all been doing things on Zoom. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. So it's about, I think that the world is changing, and perhaps we need to change the way that we, create those environments to promote engagement and things like that. But no, it's just really costly.
I think finances and resources are a definite barrier, both for, I would say, you know, I kind of was directing this for students, like what are their barriers, but that is an absolute professional barrier as well when your institution has now limited that opportunity for you to go. And so what are alternatives? What are different ways that you can engage and still get that fulfillment and maybe in a different resource way? Terry or Marcel,
And
want to chime in? Yeah.
well, just to add to that list, another resource that's limited for the students is their time. I find students, when told far in advance about something to volunteer for or be involved in, they'll be very excited about it. Yes, I want to do this. And then when the time comes,
Mhm.
I have an exam and I have this project and I thought I'd be able to get ahead and I'd be able to be involved, but I can't. And I think that constraint on their time is a really, really key one, because students are busy. They have a ton of work. They can't always do it, even if they think that they can before it actually gets close.
The last barrier I see is students who are introverts or those with the fear of the unknown. I don't know what this is all about, so I'm just going to ignore it. So I find providing the details, I think Marianne was mentioning a lot of this, providing detailed prep information, even if it's not from the professional group,
Mhm.
if it's you that you know something about this and is trying to get them to engage, you provide that information to the students. Attend the events yourself and tell them you will be there. So there's a friendly face they know already that can help them with that initial interaction.
We do something similar here as well, Terry, is in any of our events that we promote, like, oh, there's a symposium and there's this event, we say specifically who of our leadership team is going to be there. And then we actually have printed now little PSM stickers so that anytime we see one of our alums or current students, because sometimes cohorts don't talk to each other, different levels, right? First year, second year, they don't actually know each other. But we give them a red sticker that says PSM. So in a crowd of faces, it provides an easy icebreaker for you to go and talk to someone new that while it may be in your own network, you're still networking at this event, and then maybe you two can buddy up and go and be part of their conversation. So I mean, know your audience. Yeah. I mean, our scientists tend to have a high probability of a lot of these introvert characteristics, and giving them, I mean, like I said, barriers, let's give them a tool or a way to break that barrier. So yeah, that's what we do too.
I think there's one other thing that sometimes professional organizations can help with, particularly for students, is help them to think about how they might talk about their experience in interviews and on their resumes, because often with professional experiences, you'll see a one-liner that said, I'll just pick a title, PSM conference, and I volunteered. Yeah, but sometimes with the volunteering has given you this experience that has so many durable skills that it's almost like the silent part of what it is that we do. So in addition to being explicit about what's in the volunteering assignment, I wonder if there's some mechanism that we can do that closes the experience and really talks to the people who volunteers. And this adds a layer of work to put in professional associations is, what worked well in this experience? What did you learn? Is there something that we could have told you which would have been helpful at the beginning? Because that will help organizations to evolve also how they recruit volunteers in the future.
I love that. This kind of brings me into the next question, which is, and you kind of touched on this, Mary, and I love that thought point of yours where you said, what, instead of just saying I volunteered for this organization, how can we actually articulate to, future career paths for our students and their employers, or even our own, institutional career paths too? How do we better articulate in that line of not only just being part of this organization, but what were you able to accomplish, like more of those accomplished statements? How do we train or give our students those that wording? And so I kind of want to just think about that for a second, and maybe to our panel, what are some actual experiences, or what have you gained from your own, all of you have had professional organization um, involvement. And so can any of you share, or would any of you be willing to share how your involvement has actually helped you professionally, or things that you've gained that you wouldn't otherwise have gained had you not been involved? And I'm just opening it up to our crew here.
So for me, as a administrator, when I first came to Utah, I didn't know anybody at all because I'd left all my network in a different country. What working with a couple of professional associations for me has led to is I got requests for talks and would you like to come and do this presentation? And we'd love you to do this and this and this, which it would have taken me a lot longer to kind of get into that than I did by kind of making the connections that I did in the professional associations. For doing this as a graduate student, for me, it really did help with everything that the other panelists have talked about. It helped me with industry connections, the people who I could ask about what is it really like to do this. And also, I think You don't have to put every single thing you've learned on your resume in terms of the real tangible things. But from a student perspective, being on the job market particularly, I think that professional experiences for me are important scenarios to demonstrate applicability of learning, and also the fact that we may not have direct experience of doing every facet of professional work. At least we've touched on some experiences that help us to talk about this with confidence.
Absolutely. Other panelists' thoughts on what you have personally gained from being part of an organization? Um, I can just say that being part of this organization on this National Professional Workforce Aligned actually opened up a giant opportunity to be part of an NSF grant around workforce that I would traditionally not been able to be a part of, but because of the position, because of my experience and involvement, they saw me as a really good fit to bolster that grant, and we were awarded, and it's been a really great experience since. Marcel.
That's really cool. One way that I found that I've really benefited from my involvement in the NPSMA, so in addition to developing professionally, you're occasionally giving talks at conferences, or running workshops, or being on panels, all of these different types of things that are very different than the types of talks or panels you would be on for your academic expertise. This was immensely helpful for me in terms of my professional development. And then something that I hadn't thought about at all when I really was getting involved in NPSMA and doing a lot of these things was that when it comes time as an academic for tenure or promotion, tenure had never been on my radar. WPI, we had this opportunity developed recently for teaching track tenure, which I went through that process a couple of years ago and had gone through a promotion process a couple of years before that. And when you do these types of things, your institutions are looking for this type of involvement in external impact. And actually, NPSMA turned out to be incredibly helpful for me for that process.
Definitely avenues of career growth, but really personal growth as well. But when you're interacting with an association, using NPSMA as an example, you get tidbits of information that you can put to work immediately. Here in the NPSMA, all of our PSMs, they're drastically different. So there's no cookie cutter one-stop solution for things, but you get to see all these different perspectives as you would in a professional affiliation of whatever type. You see the different perspectives, the different avenues that all come together and blend, and you get nuggets of great useful information. But in the meantime, you also get that energizing feeling that, hey, I have something new. I'm learning some of these great things, and I can apply them directly to what I'm passionate about. Definitely.
I think this is almost full circle. I think we started off with perspectives and why we should get involved, and Terry kind of like bringing that back to, that's what you personally gained as part of this organization as well. I would like to open up the floor, leave a few minutes. If anyone has any questions or comments about today's topic, or would like to share a best practice that they have been able to really found effective for their student, their program, or anything like that, I welcome anyone from today's audience to go right ahead. And while you think about that, while I wait for either coming off mic or questions, I will just remind everyone that we will be promoting our next Ask NPSMA, which is at the end of September, September 27th, right? No, 29th. Sorry, it's Monday. September 29th, same time. And that topic will be industry engagement. And we're bringing in an expert from outside who has a long tenure in how to effectively engage and talk and collaborate between academia and industry. So that will be on the docket for next month. Other thoughts and comments from anyone here about today?
So if we
And-
have no other questions,
Yeah, and
one of
if
the things
not,
I wanted to finish with when I mentioned professional growth for this is true for the students, it's true for faculty, administration, but there's points in your career that you will get the feeling of being stagnant, that you're doing the same old, same old. Yes, you are busy. Yes, you are still meeting the needs of whoever you're working for, or whether that be the student or administration. But with that feeling, you get a little bit antsy. You have that feeling that what now? What's next? So a way for personal growth for me has been that volunteer, that engagement and the professional networks, whatever it might be, but really finding that new growth area.
I
And
think
by the
you
way, with that new growth area, there's openings for the NPSMA board of directors right now.
I was going to say, I think Terry's actually telepathic, because what I was going to say is that when you get into a period professionally where it feels like you're treading water, stagnation, I look for novelty. And sometimes the novelty is working with professional associations, because I get to think about things differently. I get the opportunities to try some new things. And the other thing that I sometimes forget about is, particularly working in academia now, but to some extent also wearing my industry hat. You know, if we are really advocating a model of continuous learning, we have to demonstrate that ourselves. And I think this is one way to really actively engage in continuous learning in a slightly different way, because it's outside of our own institutions, our own workplaces, and we can just do it differently. And maybe take a few more risks.
I love that. Go outside your comfort zone a little bit. Dip your toe into the professional organization pool, that is. And I will also say this may be true for many of our programs here. Often we are administering and running a lot, or even within our own departments, a team of 1, 2, 3, very small. And so being part of a larger organization with similar model and frameworks and that sort of idea really helps for you to see that there are masses out there. So finding community is really great, especially when you're feeling stagnant, when you're feeling like you've run out of new ideas. So I've really benefited as well. So I'm going to make sure I say thank you to our panelists and before the top of the hour. So thank you everyone for joining, giving us your perspectives and taking time out of your day to help enrich everyone here on our call today. And thank you everyone who joined us and tuned in from across the country. We really appreciate it.